it just my imagination, or did I hear the Canadians' harmony coming out on that song? Wow, beautiful. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tim Boeve, and I'm today's service associate. Jane Castleman, Annie Morris, and Michael Swords are going to be sharing our message with us later. And before we begin, however, if you haven't already, would you take a moment to silence your cell phones? That would be great. Thanks. Our opening words today, in part, are from UU minister, the Reverend Scott Taylor. He's the author of the Soul Matters curriculum that's used by many UU congregations, including ours, designed to deepen each participant's relationships with each other as well as their own spirituality. And this month's theme in Soul Matters is on the practice of story. And according to Taylor, the ability to tell a new story has been at the center of our faith from the beginning. We rarely think of our UU history this way, he says, but one of the beliefs that gave birth to our faith, our religion, was the belief that human beings are authors of their own stories, not passive characters in them. So accordingly, we are shaping the ongoing story of our lives even now. And to add further grace notes to our own stories, we're going to hear from 3 of our members today as they recount their spiritual stories and what it was that finally led them to be a part of this congregation. So with those words, I want to welcome you to our LCUUF Sunday service. And may this time together serve to enrich our lives and strengthen our bonds of affection with one another. If you're new to our service and you would like to receive our emails, please talk to a member of our welcome team. And if you folks could slip your hand in the air for a minute, I don't know how many are here today. So everybody's going to talk to Michael after the service. Sandy's back there too, I think. But anyway, or you can write to us at info@lcuuf.org. That's another way to find out what's going on. And now a special welcome to visitors. I see a lot of orange cards out there. So if you're visiting with us for the first time or you've come back after some absence and you'd like to slip your hand in the air, Michael will come along with a mic so you can introduce yourself. And then we'll also do that in our chat as well with the Zoom folks. Anybody here for the first time or returning after a period of away? Way in the back, Michael.
Hello.
I'm Marilyn Silk, and I did see you at the other place a few times, but I also go to St. Andrews, so I do double.
Great. Welcome. Anyone else? Kate, how about folks in Zoom today? Oh, we got a hand coming up over here.
My name is Ana Miranda de Costa Rica.
Welcome.
She's one of my best friends. We've been friends for over 40 years when I worked there for 10 years. And
Great.
She's visiting for 3 weeks.
Wonderful. Good to have you with us. Kate, anybody on Zoom?
No visitors on Zoom this morning.
Well, whether you're in that category, you're certainly welcome here. It's great to see all of you. And here at this fellowship, we offer a wide variety of services on various topics presented by our members, outside guests, as well as our minister, Reverend Matt Alsbaugh, who's holding the fort back there at the tech table today. And we hope that you will return to sample a variety of thought and belief as you are able. Our chalice lighting words today are drawn from our Soul Matters curriculum on the practice of story. Stories are told as spells for binding the world together. John Rouse. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Maya Angelou. I now see how owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. Brené Brown. At some point, we have to understand that we do not need to carry a story that is unbearable. That's good news, isn't it? We can observe the story, which is mental, feel the story, which is physical, let the story go, which is emotional, then forgive the story, which is spiritual. Joy Harjo. And finally, storytelling is a way to give someone an experience they haven't had yet, or maybe didn't even know was possible. Adrienne Marie Brown. Now, having lit our chalice, this little light of mine, it's coming, it's coming. There it is. Thanks, Catherine. Having lit our chalice, let's sing these words together.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
This is a time in our service where we can briefly share our joys, our sorrows, our concerns, and our milestones. And the reason we do that is because there's power in sharing these tiny little stories for a moment here. And just a sentence or two is enough. And we're going to start with the folks in the room. That'll give folks that are watching on Zoom a chance to write their joys and or sorrows in the chat box. So here, let's go first. Michael has the mic. If you have something you'd like to share, either something that brings you joy today or something that brings you some sorrow or sadness, either one's good, and Flo's up first.
Hi, my name is Flo, and I want to share that I have been experiencing since the end of December, actually, things that have been poking at me, and I have finally gotten things where friends have passed and have had serious injuries and breaking things, and when they happen close at home to me, to those I love, I didn't realize how much I took in and held on to because I love these people, and also recognizing how fragile I am. But I've moved into another space now, and I'm so glad I have been voicing these concerns as I've been finally. And I'm feeling better and better and recognizing that I can love these folks and let their sorrows be their sorrows and pray for them, meditate, what have you. So I'm feeling good.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Leichter. I received news yesterday that one of the kindest men I've ever met has been in the ICU for the last 2 weeks and now is on a ventilator and not expected to last the week.
Good morning. I'm David Rosh, and a few weeks ago, my wife and I experienced our dear friend, Rabbi Posner, thank you, and his wife renewing their marital vows over at the Jewish temple. And we enjoyed it so much we decided we're going to do the same thing. And that will happen on February 8th at 7 o'clock in the evening. And it's a fun half hour. We just would like you to see you there at the Jewish temple.
Thanks, Michael. I'm Teresa Sandy, and I have a joy that Fred and Mardell are coming on, I think it's Friday, and will be staying with me, so I'm thrilled.
Hi, my name is Ilona de Borhegi. I did a career of foreign aid work, and just want to say that my heart goes out to the fact that the administration this week has frozen nearly all foreign aid, and this includes Mexico, obviously, and it is in the process of withdrawing from the foreign aid institutions, and the foreign aid workers are nearly out of a job. And I just want to say this is a real loss for the world.
I saw so many of us a few days ago, was that yesterday, at the concert that Michael Reason had, and it was wonderful, that we were represented there. And Anna and I spent 2 weeks in Veracruz, and it was cool because we got to see the same violinist in Veracruz at a symphony orchestra concert there as we did yesterday. And we did a whole bunch of other things too. But man, what a violinist. Wasn't she great? Yeah. And I don't know, are you having a good time? ¿Estás gozando su tiempo aquí? Yeah.
What can she say, right?
Mucho.
Mucho,
En
mucho.
español.
Of course, por supuesto.
I would like to chime in. Yesterday, Michael Reason conducted the orchestra. It was a fantastic concert. It was just 400 people. There wasn't barely an empty seat in the house, and everyone was just totally impressed. Thank you, Michael. He's on vacation now. We won't see him for a while.
Amen to that. Thanks, Michael. Kate, what do we have on Zoom, if anything, today?
We have a joy from Devorah. It is a joy to be able to attend the fellowship even when under the weather, and grateful for friends who have reached out. I'm feeling better, thank goodness.
Salute. Is that Kate? Thanks. And this candle that Catherine's going to light from our care team, that represents all the joys and sorrows that we have, that we may not have spoken, that we're holding in our own hearts. And we light this candle in commemoration of that, but also to give us a chance just to pause. And we'll do that for a few seconds here and just hold all these things in our hearts and open our hearts to the world of pain and to the world of joy as well. Thank you. And now we come to that time in our service where we have a chance to give back from our resources, and that's with our offering. And as we pass the basket, if you're struggling in any way financially, then just let that basket pass you by. We also say the same for visitors, so you don't have to feel any obligation. And actually, it's really never an obligation, is it? It's more of an opportunity that we have in sharing these gifts. And everything that we collect in the baskets goes to one of these organizations out there that need help. And in this case, it's
DePewa.
that is going to receive our offering all of this month. This is the last Sunday, of course, and there should be something, yep, right up there telling you a little bit about what that organization's all about. And can we go back just a little bit there, Kate? Thanks. And may this offering, even as it's being collected now, truly enrich the lives of those who receive it. And also may it serve to remind us of our need and privilege to share our time, our talents, our treasures with others. And thank you so much for your generosity. Our hymn that we get to stand up and sing, just as you were singing earlier with Gordon, we'll do that without him now. And that's the opening hymn, Blessed Spirit of My Life. I think the tune's pretty easy to get, so if you are so inclined and able, stand and sing with all gusto that you have, and we'll give it a go.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion when my thoughts flow restlessly. Let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my worldless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then, when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Before we, excuse me, before we hear our first storyteller, Jane, this morning, let me just say a word about this process, how this particular service came to be. And our Sunday service team, we're always thinking of ways to enhance what we do here and the messages that we are presented with each week. And we got to thinking about how good it is to hear how it is that people have come to this place in their life where they would join a fellowship such as this. What brought that about? What was the urge, the pull, the spark, as it were? And so we have our first three storytellers today, and our hope is, that is the hope of the Sunday service team, is that more of you, after hearing these folks share, will be inspired to do exactly the same. And then occasionally, 3-4 times a year, we'll continue this so we get to know each other better and just have that deeper bond of connection with one another. So very happy to have these three, and welcome Jane first, and she's going to talk about And the Search Goes On.
Good afternoon. So my story is that I was born into a quiet, bookish family with a science-based worldview, and there wasn't any spiritual language at all. Reality was just a collection of facts, and emotional support could be pretty scarce. And the family belief system included that not to defend your point of view was weak. But my parents let a neighbor take me along to the neighborhood evangelical Christian church beginning when I was 5. So I learned the Bible stories, and that's me on the upper left in the white hat. And that's my neighbor on the right, the lady in the fur coat. The story in my memory is that the minister there gave one too many eye for an eye, sin and hell Sunday sermons. Plus, I really didn't want to go to that summer tent revival. So by the time I was 10, that was it for me. But my life went on. As a teen, there were several things that were important to me. One day, drawing with a sketch pad in a creek in the woods, next to a creek in the woods, not in the creek, and suddenly realizing the presence of God. I mean, unforgettable, really. I could feel like I could still be there right now. And then attending a bunch of different Protestant churches with my friends. Unsatisfying, unconnecting to me. But there was a Unitarian youth group that kind of stands out for me still. So then taking a college class, philosophy of religion, which I chose as an elective, in which we read The Death of Ivan Ilyich, a pretty dark novel, and really wasn't what I was looking for at that point. And then in our late 20s, which was in the late 1960s, if you could kind of put yourself there if you were there, Al and I attended a week-long experience at Sequoia Seminar in the woods of Belle Nelmond, created by Stanford professor Harry Rathbun and his wife Amelia. During the second night of this 5, 6 day, 7 day experience, I had a vivid dream of receiving a gift. So, and the point of the gift really was how deliberately, lovingly given had been to me. A gift of great riches. I mean, the images all went with that, which was followed the next day, next evening, experiencing a frightening hallucination. And after explaining what I had seen, amid my sobs, being told very gently that I had been hurt. And at that moment, I was just overwhelmed by that visceral feeling I'd never felt before, for weeks. And the physical hurt followed me for several weeks until it slowly faded. I got used to it being there. Had I spoken to anyone about this, they might have said it looked from the outside like a bit of a breakdown. But to me, it was clearly a breakthrough. It was the creation of a deep channel to my feelings. What's he saying? Well, anyway, I'll put the mic closer. Thank you. This was followed the next day by an incredible lecture by Harry Rathbun, gathered from all the streams of world wisdom. His words struck me to the core. The incredible beauty and the miracle of our lives, and the opportunity to make meaning and to change the world by striving to fulfill their potential. And in this time period, for the first time, I heard the word work used to mean doing one's inner work. While all of this was within the environment of the Creative Initiative Foundation, as it was then called, and I began to meditate and read books like Maslow's Towards Psychology of Being, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and we participated for 4 years until the day when I was asked by the leader, did I have a personal relationship with God? And my answer was, what do you mean personal? They had hidden the religious foundation underlying what was now named global community, and I had failed the test for leadership. And it was really painful to lose connection to these people who were important to me. They were the source of my growing, but filling that lonely void took me back to school to get another degree in psychology this time, not science. And the psychology that was taught then, maybe you remember this, at least maybe not at the top tier schools, but it was ego psychology. And it did help me. It helped me with my hang-ups, a lot of them, and it helped me to raise our children well or better. And I just kept reading P.W. Martin's Experiment in Depth, David Hawkins' Force versus Power, and the eye of the eye, trying to bring my head and my heart together, to work together. Pema Chodron's book, Compassion, became my inspiration and companion for a while. She has a whole slew of wonderful books, slim but very valuable. So it was a long time before I realized that I'd been carrying, since I was a child, an image of God as a man in a white robe sitting atop a tree that had been given to me in a pamphlet in my Sunday school days. And I had struggled unsuccessfully for decades to unsee this image as God. It felt like God was a movie. It was a movie. It was playing across town, but I couldn't get to it. So finally, I reformulated God as reality. And I made a personal commitment to remove my rose-colored glasses. And I think that helped me to restart my openness and growth. After we moved here a dozen years ago to Ahihic, we just sort of fell into Richard and Matt's Aging to Saging course, and we eventually reconnected with Unitarianism and joined LCUUF just before the pandemic quarantine. So we watched the Sunday presentations together on Zoom at home, together, the two of us, and had long, wonderful discussions afterwards, just the two of us. And I began to see, to understand that Al had been functioning as my moral compass and had been the underpinning source of my growth for all those years. I was using him to tell me, just kind of, instead of figuring it out for myself. So one evening after dinner several years ago, I asked him about his beliefs. And through the clarity of his answers to my questions, I realized I had taken complete personal credit for all the successes I had had, not realizing, not being aware of when I was helped by that still small inner voice beyond my small s self. And I began to call this source of help God. And the image in the tree gradually disappeared, thankfully. So through the Sunday presentations and the work of thinking them through, I began to assemble all the jigsaw pieces that I had gathered in my lifetime into that coherent spiritual foundation I had been searching for all my life, including God as love, and love, and my role in social justice, and much, much more. So as I began to take a bigger part in LCUUF, each time I wrote a small piece for a presentation, the effort to articulate my thoughts and my feelings pushed me to search and discover more of that rock upon which my spirit rests. In closing, I want to acknowledge that the debt I owe all of you for creating the loving safety here that allows me to tackle fear, which is my barrier to vulnerability and authenticity. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. And now we're going to hear from Michael as he shares his story, The Long Search for My Truth. Michael.
I was born, raised, confirmed in the same Presbyterian church that my mother and father, my grandmother and my grandfather were married in. I was always active in our local church, but it was being sent home from school in the 5th grade that was a major event in our family life, our family history, a wake-up call that affected each of us very deeply. For my father, it led him to make a career change. He became a golf professional right in the middle of his adult life. For my mother, although, She was always active in the local church. It led her into a deeper and deeper spiritual experiences. She became involved in the Koinonia, a group which is a Christian fellowship or communion with God, or more commonly, with fellow Christians. And it was a major wake-up call for me. I was quite a troublemaker. At home, I was always involved in one sort of mischief or another. My dad was a very strict disciplinarian. I was always in trouble. However, it was a mystery to me that my behavior in school did not come to the surface until I got kicked out, my expulsion, which led to the Child Guidance Center. At 11 years old, I was psychoanalyzed. The psychologist's conclusion after all the tests was that there was nothing wrong with Michael. He further noted that I was just working out in the public arena the fact that my mother and father were not getting along. Despite the diagnosis, it was obvious that I had to make changes in my behavior. I had always had an aptitude for the spiritual matters. I answered my first altar call at age 7. I soon began flirting with the pulpit, attending various youth groups and Sunday school presentations. I continued with active church life, Sunday school, worship services, Sunday evening youth group, and choir. Through junior and senior high school, I began daily reading and quiet time. During my high school years, there was an increasing exposure and influence of fundamentalism. My father's brother changed careers in midlife from a golf professional to a Church of God minister. My mother became increasingly Bible and small group study oriented. Meanwhile, I continued to explore wider and wider theologies and religions. I began to become aware of more and more tension between my growing body of experience and study versus the fundamentalist presentation of Jesus as Lord and Savior. Then I went off to college, which was such an amazing experience, presenting me with new people. Oh, by the way, it was a Presbyterian college, but anyhow, new people, new faiths, and new opportunities. Slowly, over time, my own faith, my own theology began to take shape. Jesus was not my Savior. He is my friend. He is my companion. He is my inspiration. At that point, I had never even heard of Unitarian Universalists. But upon reflection all these years, I might have been a UU without even knowing it. In fact, it was a sermon many years ago by a church leader that centered around women not having any position of responsibility or officiality in the church, which led to me walking out and not wanting to go back into church until I began attending LCUUF 2 years ago. For 40 years, I did not go to church. After leaving that church, Cora and I spent our lives together searching, experiencing, and growing into a vibrant realization of this simple truth from Franciscan Father Richard Rohr, which surprisingly, there's a plaque over there on the wall with this quote on it. We cannot attain the presence of God because we're already totally in the presence of God. What is absent is awareness. I think my struggle with fundamentalism was mostly about guilt. And of course, that was coming from my experience with my dominant, overbearing father. And being a Gemini, a split twin, you know, the focus of my life, of my adult life, has been finding a balance between a loving, compassionate feminine and a disjointed masculine. All of this within me. Mom and Dad are gone. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And finally, we're going to hear from Annie Morris, A Long and Winding Road.
Some people say that everything you are begins with your mom. My mother's mother was a devout, superstitious Catholic with a fiery temper. Her father was a sweet, mild-mannered agnostic. Mother attended Catholic school through the 12th grade. Then she told her father that she wanted to join a convent. He said, just all I ask is that you go to college for 1 year, and after that, if you still want to be a nun, you have my blessing. Freshman year, she lost her religion and became a socialist. It was the 1930s, and she was out righting wrongs. She married my father, and at some point, I came along. But before that, there was a miscarriage. When I was about 7, Mother told me she had said, marriage without children is just legalized sin. My first sex talk at age 7, and also, come to think of it, my first religious talk. Dad worked in the Foreign Service with the State Department. Wherever he lived, Mother took us to church because that's what nice people did. Different place, different sect, mostly Lutheran and Methodist, pleasant, but nothing really stuck. And she read Bible stories, children's Bible stories to us, and always ended with, and that's the best kind of story because it's true. She didn't believe a word of it. When I was about 7, I learned the truth about Santa Claus and then about the Easter Bunny. I wasn't ready to ask about Jesus, but I did kind of wonder. In 8th grade, we moved to India, painted elephants, monkeys, and gods, so many gods. It all seemed exotic and interesting, but not quite real. In 10th grade, I went to an international school in the mountains. Basically, it was a missionary school. Some of my best friends were missionary kids. I loved them. They were kind and fun, and we had a good time together. Hiking, laughing, square dancing, no other dancing because. One teacher in particular was really obsessed with hellfire and damnation. I hadn't even been kissed yet, and I was sure I was doomed. Next stop, the United States. Still very religious, I attended Methodist churches in both of my next towns. Good, rational ministers, father figures, nice kids to hang out with. It was sensible and cool and a great environment. It was very nurturing. Then college at Denver University, the year that it became Playboy magazine's first party stool. Lost? You bet I was. Studying existentialism, I developed a major depression and dropped out. Wow, talk about nothing to believe in. So I found a bad boyfriend, got married, had kids. Religion? Who had time? When the inevitable divorce happened, I was raising 3 kids, pretty much without a clue and no boundaries to speak of. I needed some support, some backbone. So I joined a Unitarian church in a small town in New York. It was exactly what we needed, and we all thrived. The next move was to California, where the Unitarians were a whole nother thing. very, very new age. I did not know that each Unitarian fellowship gets to choose how they run things. Did you? Anyway, we did a lot of tie-dye. Next on the menu was Zen Buddhism. I liked it. It was quiet. Then I dabbled in science of mind, and then nothing again for a long time. When I came to Mexico, I loved it. I still do, but I still felt a lack. Then a friend here invited me to a bare stage production held in the UU Church, and there I found my favorite people and something to feed my soul. Annie's back, and glad to be here. I finally knew I was home.
Thanks, Annie. So our closing hymn, my friends, is Spirit of Life. And once again, I'm going to ask you if you're able to please stand and sing out with all your gusto.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in my hand, giving life a shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Well, I want to once again thank our three storytellers, Jane, Michael, and Annie, for sharing their spiritual stories with us today. I'm sure I speak on behalf of our fellowship in saying that we're very glad you made your way to this fellowship in your search. How fascinating to see, even with detours along the way, how exactly what we need shows up when we need it. And that then turns into a blessing for others, just as each of you have blessed us today. So let us extinguish our chalice with these words, which we read together. Let's give Catherine a moment to... We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world.
If I can reach the stars, I'll pull one down for you. Shine it on my heart, so you could see the truth. And let love inside, then bring me to see. But for now, only in the truth that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love would really something good. enriching the world.
You know, in my next life, I'm coming back as a rock star, no doubt about it. And this does indeed conclude our service today. So go in peace and with a purpose, and let's change the world. Amen.